What if I told you that California, a state known for both its natural beauty and its progressive policies, was in the midst of a water crisis that threatened to upend its way of life? And what if there was a multi-billion-dollar solution that could help turn the tide? California is a land of contrasts, where lush forests and pristine beaches coexist with arid deserts and rugged mountains. It's also a state of hydrological extremes, prone to both devastating droughts and catastrophic floods. In recent years, these extremes have become more pronounced, with prolonged dry spells followed by intense periods of rainfall. In 2021, after years of below-average precipitation, the governor declared a statewide drought emergency, calling on residents to reduce their water usage by 15%. But just 2 years later, in 2023, the state was hit by a series of atmospheric rivers that dumped trillions of gallons of water on the parched landscape, causing widespread flooding and damage. This whiplash between drought and deluge is becoming the new normal for California, as climate change amplifies the natural variability of the state's water cycle. According to a recent study by the UCLA Center for Climate Science, the frequency of extreme wet and dry years in California is expected to increase by 50% by the end of the century, with fewer average years in between. The impacts of this hydrological roller coaster are far-reaching and profound. During droughts, farmers are forced to fallow fields, and ranchers must sell off livestock, while cities impose strict water use restrictions and wildfire risk soars. When the rains finally come, they often arrive in such intense bursts that the water cannot be effectively captured and stored, leading to flooding, mudslides, and billions of dollars in damage. And with a growing population and a thirsty agricultural sector, the demand for water is only increasing, even as supplies become more erratic and unpredictable. California's $50 billion agricultural industry, which produces over a third of the country's vegetables and 2/3 of its fruits and nuts, is particularly vulnerable to these water woes, as are the rural communities that depend on farming for their livelihoods. As the state grapples with this new reality, it is becoming increasingly clear that the old ways of managing water are no longer sufficient. To ensure a reliable and sustainable water supply for the future, California must fundamentally rethink its approach to water management, embracing new technologies, strategies, and partnerships that can help it adapt to a changing climate and a growing population. To help manage this complex hydrological balancing act, California has long relied on a vast network of dams, canals, and pipelines known as the State Water Project, SWP. Launched in the 1950s, the SWP is one of the largest water infrastructure projects in the world, spanning over 700 miles and serving more than 27 million people. At the heart of the SWP are a series of massive reservoirs, including Lake Oroville, the second largest reservoir in California, with a storage capacity of over 3.5 million acre-feet. These man-made lakes act as giant water banks, storing excess runoff during wet years and releasing it during dry spells to keep the taps flowing and the crops growing. The SWP also includes a vast network of canals and aqueducts that transport water from the wetter northern regions of the state to the drier southern regions, crossing over mountain ranges and traversing hundreds of miles of rugged terrain. The California Aqueduct, the main artery of the SWP, is the longest water conveyance system in the world, stretching over 400 miles from the Sacramento-San Joaquin Delta to Southern California. But even with this impressive infrastructure in place, California still struggles to meet its water needs, particularly during extended droughts. The SWP was designed to provide a reliable water supply for a state with a population of around 20 million people. Today, California is home to nearly 40 million residents, and the demands on the system have grown exponentially. Moreover, the SWP is facing a host of new challenges, from aging infrastructure and rising maintenance costs to environmental concerns and competing water demands. Many of the project's facilities are over 50 years old and in need of significant upgrades and repairs, while others are struggling to adapt to changing hydrological conditions and regulatory requirements. In recent years, the SWP has also come under increasing scrutiny from environmental groups and local communities, who argue that the project's dams and diversions have caused significant harm to natural habitats and Native American American cultural sites. Efforts to address these concerns, such as the restoration of wetlands and the removal of obsolete dams, have added new layers of complexity and cost to the project. Despite these challenges, the SWP remains a critical component of California's water infrastructure, providing a lifeline to millions of people and supporting billions of dollars in economic activity. As the state looks to the future, it will need to find new ways to optimize and modernize the SWP, while also exploring alternative water sources and management strategies that can help reduce reliance on this aging system. To help address this growing water deficit, California is turning to a bold new solution: the Sites Reservoir. Located in a narrow valley north of Sacramento, the Sites Reservoir is an ambitious $4 billion project that aims to create a new off-stream storage facility that can capture and store excess water from major storms. Unlike traditional reservoirs, which are created by damming a river and flooding the surrounding area, the Sites Reservoir will be filled using a system of pumps and canals that will divert water from the nearby Sacramento River during periods of high flow. This off-stream design minimizes the environmental impact on the river ecosystem and allows for more flexible operation of the reservoir. When completed, the Sites Reservoir will have a storage capacity of up to 1.8 million acre-feet of water, enough to supply hundreds of thousands of homes and businesses for a year. It will also provide critical supplies for agricultural irrigation, helping to support the state's $50 billion farming industry. The Sites Reservoir is being hailed as a game changer for California water management, offering a new model for capturing and storing water that can be replicated in other parts of the state and beyond. By operating independently of the Sacramento River, the reservoir will be able to capture water during peak flows and store it for use during dry periods, providing a critical buffer against the impacts of drought. The project is also being designed with environmental sustainability in mind, incorporating features such as fish-friendly diversions and habitat restoration projects to mitigate any impacts on local ecosystems. In addition, the reservoir will be operated in coordination with other water management systems, such as groundwater recharge and recycled water programs, to maximize its effectiveness and minimize waste. But perhaps most importantly, the Sites Reservoir represents a new era of collaboration and partnership in California water management. The project is being developed through a unique public-private partnership that brings together local, state, and federal agencies, as well as private investors and stakeholders, to share the costs and benefits of the project. This model of shared responsibility and shared benefit is seen as essential for tackling the complex water challenges facing California in the 21st century. By bringing together diverse interests and expertise, the Sites Reservoir project is demonstrating that even the most daunting water problems can be solved through innovation, cooperation, and a commitment to sustainability. As the project moves forward, it is being watched closely by water managers and policymakers around the world, who see it as a potential model for addressing similar water challenges in their own regions. If successful, the Sites Reservoir could help to inspire a new generation of water projects that prioritize flexibility, resilience, and environmental stewardship, while also meeting the needs of a growing population in a changing climate. Building a project of this scale is no easy feat, and the Sites Reservoir has faced its share of challenges and controversies over the years. One of the biggest hurdles has been the cost, with initial estimates ranging from $3 billion to over $5 billion. To help cover these expenses, the project has sought funding from a variety of sources, including state and federal grants, water agency contributions, and private investments. Another challenge has been the potential impact on the environment and local communities. While the off-stream design of the reservoir minimizes the direct impact on the Sacramento River, there are still concerns about the effects on groundwater levels, wildlife habitats, and cultural resources in the area. To address these issues, the project has undergone extensive environmental review and has incorporated a number of mitigation measures, such as fish screens to protect migrating salmon and habitat restoration projects to offset any impacts on wildlife. The project has also engaged in extensive outreach and consultation with local stakeholders, including farmers, environmental groups, and Native American tribes. Despite these challenges, the site's reservoir remains a top priority for California water managers, who see it as a critical tool for adapting to the state's changing hydrology. By providing a new source of off-stream storage, the reservoir will help to smooth out the peaks and valleys of the state's water supply, reducing the risk of both droughts and floods. But the site's reservoir is more than just a single project. It represents a new approach to water management in California, one that emphasizes flexibility, resilience, and adaptation to changing conditions. As the state faces an increasingly uncertain hydrological future, projects like the site's reservoir will become increasingly important for ensuring a reliable and sustainable water supply. Other states and regions around the world are also grappling with similar water challenges, and the lessons learned from the site's reservoir could have broad implications for water management in the 21st century. By demonstrating the feasibility and benefits of off-stream storage, the project could inspire similar efforts in other water-stressed areas, from the American Southwest to the Middle East. As construction on the reservoir begins in earnest in the coming years, it will be a symbol of hope and progress for a state that has long been at the forefront of environmental stewardship. And while the challenges ahead are significant, the site's reservoir is a reminder that with bold vision and concerted effort, even the most intractable problems can be overcome.